Thanks. There you go, see? Okay, now I'd like to call to order the Village of Lansing Planning Board meeting of Tuesday, April 25th to order at 7:02 PM. We do have a full board, all in person too. Welcome back, everybody. First item on the agenda is the approval of minutes for April 10th, 2023.
They were so complex.
They were very complex. Did anyone have any additional comments they wanted to make? If not, I'll entertain a motion to approve the minutes. Motion by Pat, second by Lisa, all in favor? Aye. Next item on the agenda is the public comment period. Opportunity for anyone in the public to comment on anything that's not already on the agenda tonight.
Hi, it's Susan, covering for the board.
Hey, Susan.
Carla Marceau, I'm here as an observer for the community party.
Hey, Carla. I don't know how loud I just made that, so. If Susan says anything else and it's really, hey, can you say hi one time really quick, Susan?
Hello, hi.
Okay, we can hear you now.
Okay,
Doesn't seem like there's any other comments, so I'll entertain a motion to close the public comment period.
I move that we close the public comment period.
I will second.
Motion by Lisa, sorry, I just combined Lisa and Jim. Second by Jim, all in favor?
Aye.
Okay, next item on the agenda is to continue the discussion of the solar array draft law. Just to continue reviewing and discussing a draft of a proposed solar array law. So at the last meeting, we went over some of the previous changes, and I came up with a whole new list of things to incorporate in. I was waiting until after this meeting to go back and do that, because it is kind of tedious, and I knew there were gonna be a whole bunch of changes from section 3. No, so the only thing you should have gotten is from Mike, and that was really just a comment on section 8, tier 3. And that's what we talked about tonight.
And I make a request.
Yes.
The next time you have one of these written things, could you use a little bit larger font?
Yes. Yes,
Can you, with the sidebars like
yeah,
that?
you can.
Okay, good.
I tried getting it off.
Oh, but wait a minute, I thought we got rid of visuals.
So this does
Oh, that's
not,
what you
this
just
yet, so
said.
this doesn't incorporate all the stuff. Once we have stuff about tier 3 tonight,
Right.
the next draft will
Okay.
incorporate everything from tonight and the last meeting.
And my request is that we date them so I know which one.
I do have dates on them. For some odd
85 million of them.
reason, the date doesn't come out on this, so I'll stick it somewhere at the top. All the
So-
revisions I have are dated.
Okay,
But did you want to kick us off, Mike?
I was just gonna say, you gave me a task at the last meeting to
Right.
see what I could do with tier 3. And like my email, I'll paraphrase what my email said, the only difference between tier 2 and tier 3 is obviously the size and what type of facility. I mean, not that much to it. So let's go through the same process. And even if it were a facility that needed to go to the state, it would still have to come to the local municipality for any local improvement, along with buffering and whatnot. What I gave you tonight was, you'll find, you have the unified solar permit.
is this different than the one we?
No, it's the same thing.
Same one.
I just gave it to you because on page 3, we were talking about what the tier 3 submittal requirements are. And basically, if we do adopt this unified solar permit, you're gonna find that highlight area, you're gonna have more information than you could ever ask for individually. So, and the other item that's stapled to that, or right behind it, is the actual construction documents that they point out in the unified solar permit that they refer to. And what is on there is everything from site plan to structural analysis to electrical diagram to actual checklist for field verification. So it's got all the information on there, and I don't recommend that we list out the same type of items in our tier 3 for general requirements. Now, if we have some others that aren't listed in this document, that is, say, municipal requirement, then maybe we can list it. But a lot of that is also listed with under the special permit requirements. I mean, we're kind of restating everything. My other item is, to show you, is I also gave you the telecommunications right out of the
Oh.
code book. And I gave it to you for a couple reasons. One, to let you see how lengthy something can be, how lengthy something can get. And the other would be on page 145-087. It gives you what the removal of it is and what is required to have, you talk about decommissioning program. If you want to have something that's similar, we touched on it once or twice, but I would recommend that we word it somewhat the same to keep consistency.
Yeah. The reason,
Now, I know that telecommunications and solar, you're comparing apples to pears, but we still are comparing fruit,
decommissioning.
you know?
The reason I asked you is the one thing I did do was look at I mean, I think we pretty much have decided that this is the way to go. And it really does make, and this could change also over time, and then we wouldn't need to change our code, which would be helpful. But one of the things was on the very last page, it talked about municipality name has adopted a standardized inspection checklist. So I didn't.
Where are you, this is
On the unified solar permit,
Last page.
page
very
5.
last page.
Yeah, okay.
At the very top, it says municipal.
Oh, okay.
Speak it would help. Has adopted a standardized inspection checklist, which can be found in the understanding solar PV permit, blah, 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 found here. And I didn't know whether we had that or whether we want to.
What I have found out talking to municipalities we had a STMO meeting, and I asked about it, if people had adopted it. And everyone I've talked to, we went through the whole thing, and says, yes, I mean, this gives you, they send you this so that you're able to obviously put, Village of Lansing in there and whatnot, but they also send it so you're able to delete items. What you're talking about there, Lisa, is if you go back a page where it says submittal requirement, it gives you an either or an and. I mean, you can do A or B
Plan review, are you in the,
under submittal requirements.
oh, second page, I went back a page. Second page.
Where I have it highlighted? You have a highlighted page.
Well, I probably, this one.
There you go. Where you have that, it gives you options on how you want to, how you want to go about what you're looking for submittal requirements. You can have an area where you can just list A and B, where you refer to the understanding of the solar PV permitting, which is this document that I gave you.
Okay,
Or you can go down through and itemize everything if you'd like to, which includes what you're pointing out on the back there.
yeah, I was just,
Options, so you can take those right out if you want to.
well, I'm just wondering what we want to do is probably, the real point is, first of all, do we have a checklist? Or if this thing says this, then don't we have to have it?
It would be a matter of, you remember when we had the special permit checklist that I revised when
Yeah.
I got here? We can still have something of that nature just for solar permits if you really.
Well, I just wanted to be sure that we had this covered, so, basically.
Yeah.
Because I hadn't really looked at this closely, and I'm looking through and thinking, oh,
But the other architects and code officers that I spoke to, they deleted 2 or 3 pages of this because it really didn't pertain to what they were looking to do. So you can modify this if you need to.
I see, but then it really isn't this, if we modify it, is it?
Has everything on here that you're really looking for.
Unless we delete it, and then as long as it's what we want. So is there anything that you think we should delete?
Well, if you have, there's probably some things on here. I really haven't gone through to see what we can take out.
Okay, well, I'm not sure we want to.
I had that meeting, last week, and I started looking some of it over, but I
Okay,
didn't start taking things
well,
out.
I guess my point is if this is the application, doesn't it have to stay this way to be the New York State Unified Solar Permit application? No.
Well, I'll find out more, but apparently everyone else has modified it, so.
Oh, so we can modify it.
I mean, yeah,
That's odd to me, but all right.
I guess you'd have to kind of, call it out, right? It's not just the default one, it's the,
Yeah,
version
yeah.
the version that the village has adopted.
Right. Okay.
It is interesting, too, if you look at the telecommunications piece, when you get
Oh,
to
my God.
the, hang on, I keep flipping, when you get to the removal piece,
Yeah.
on the second page, they have, when you're talking about a financial security bond, they had that same language in there of, it's in the amount approved by the planning board upon the recommendation of the engineer, but not less than 50,000.
grand, yes. Whichever is.
We took out of the solar one, we took that specific piece out, so yeah.
Lisa, I will check into more to see how much you can modify this.
Well, I was just, to me, that's strange. It's like, it is the New York State thing, or it isn't. you know?
Right, yeah,
That just seems odd to me, but I don't care. It's not that I'm objecting necessarily. It's just, to me, it says, if you're using the New York State form, then this is it, and we should comply with it. But if that's not what people are doing, for me,
I'll
get in the way.
more than, I'll find out more. what we can
Yeah,
do with it.
great. Because otherwise, there are a couple of things, I think we have to develop a checklist and all that, which you would probably do.
We'd probably do that
To do
anyway.
your business, but still, we just need to be sure that we've covered our bases if that's the case.
So I don't know whether that's helped our solar law or added on.
no, I think you're right, I mean, honestly, because, right, if you look at, like, if you go and look at, the tier 3 one, some of the, if you go under, like, the application and site plan review documents,
Yes,
name, address, contact information, we're gonna have all that on the unified solar permit.
Yeah,
you can almost get rid of like.
Right, the maps, the 1 or 3 line electrical diagram you'll get on, that's part of, what was this other document, the construction documents, that information gets captured here somewhere, I saw it.
I think I was looking, you can almost take out 1 through 12, I believe.
1 through 12.
Yeah, 13 is your decommissioning.
But if we're gonna get rid of that entire section, we could just put the, did we already put the decommissioning plan? That's under tier 2 already. So that's already captured. You're gonna say there's 1 or 2, those are the 2 tiers we have,
Right,
and all that stuff is captured, as long as it's like, as, right, if somebody's gonna go and put a small thing on their house, or a small, whatever it is, in their front yard, and it's a tier 2, maybe we don't require them to have a decommissioning plan, or maybe we do, but we have that flexibility.
Yeah, Wendy checking off everything.
She is.
no, I'm thinking about this,
Well, and some of the other language
the
is
solar
just,
thermal thing again. I have
some of
to
the
go
other
look-
stuff is just the things that we do anyway as part of the special permit process, right? Like referred for a 239,
Some criteria.
we have 60 days within, so I mean, that's all just language that's already outside this document. That's,
No, I think it makes sense if the tier 3 is just, it's a matter of size. I mean, we.
yeah, I mean, if that's that, we can capture that
Right.
between the, I mean, it's already on here too, it already has like, well,
So you're
rated
saying get rid
capacity.
of application of site plan review requirements, get rid of 1 through 12
I think you can get rid of A also, right?
upon,
not.
application? Well, it would be this, I think I should restate it, though, the same as tier 2. I just think you should, because if somebody qualifies, they don't qualify for tier 2, they're gonna go to tier 3, and I think you should restate what the requirements are, maybe. I don't know. I always try to think, what would I want, because I would probably say, oh, I'm not tier 2, so I'm gonna just tier 3, and then I get to tier 3, it's like, well, what do I have to do, and then I would have to go back, and then I'm just very,
Refer to tier 2 now.
no, don't like that.
I would just do a comparison to make sure you're picking up your zoning things,
Right.
Yeah.
like your zoning classifications and the use around there, and because this unified one is very pro-solar.
Right.
You know, so if you want to look at it in the context of, you know, where it is in your zoning map, you know, I would just, you know, kind of tick through these and make sure that they're covered to give you guys the authority to ask for all that information.
All districts, we always have districts and stuff. Now, one of the other things that I came across, okay, so in the town of Ithaca, they do 18 months, if it's not functioning within 18 months of the building permit, and all of that kind of stuff, I don't know. But the other thing that I was wondering whether we wanted to include, and I didn't think that we did, was they have a design standards, and one of the things that they, barbed wire shall not be utilized. I don't know if we want to get into that level, but
Is any of that captured here in these construction documents?
What did you say, Lisa?
barbed wire will not be used for the fencing. And just, I don't know if anybody else has looked at the town, because I keep thinking, you know,
I
that's.
read over it, I don't remember the barbed wire piece. I might not have read over the
I
fencing
circled, I
piece.
thought, well, that's interesting. And then they talk about fencing that, if it's big, I guess, allows the passage of basically the wildlife to go through, which maybe is a consideration that we should think about. But one of the things that I don't know is we've actually mentioned in here is we've talked about the tree ordinance, but we didn't get into lighting, and we might want to reference our lighting and the signage. They talked about that too, and I thought maybe we should really just mention it,
I took a note down about.
comply with our code, to your point.
Yeah, I took a note down about the trees, obviously, because we talked about that.
Right.
I had a note from before about lighting, but signage,
I don't
we
know,
briefly mentioned it, because
was
we
only
were trying to
for-
figure out what would that kind of be, but,
I don't know.
right, it's not,
Bigger than a square foot.
right, well, right, I mean, but it's not, I think when we talked about it, the signage is like, danger, high voltage.
Yeah, kind of,
But it could be, I don't know, I guess it's interesting, right, as you drive past some of the other,
just that it should comply with our sign law. I'm just saying, I would like to really be specific about, when we do have it in our code, it should comply with the lighting code, and should comply with the signage, just to,
Are you talking about required signage, like Mike was saying, danger or whatnot, or are you?
no, just saying it complies with our
requiring
code.
the Signage as per our zoning.
yeah, I would just say it complies.
I just would
Without
say it
even getting
complies,
into the specifics.
and we'll discuss it, but I just would like people to be aware of that.
Right.
Not that that's gonna matter for residential,
Right now.
I mean.
Kenny was gonna put up, I have solar panel sign.
Yes, or it's gonna, put up by so-and-so, no, we do not want that.
Right.
But, you know what I'm saying, but I just thought, oh, if we're gonna reference the tree,
Right.
I think we should reference also our lighting and
I
signage
think the lighting could become more of a,
issue, yeah.
potential
Or
discussion.
whatever,
point.
I don't even.
But I think if you, not that I think any of us have driven by so many of them, but any of the ones that I know I've driven by, I can't recall ever seeing,
Light.
all right, it's not
Or
like we're gonna
sign.
put a spotlight up to light the whole thing at night, I mean, no, but, there will be lighting, I imagine some of these where there's, bigger, where they've got like little junction facilities all over the place, or whatever you wanna call them, they would want lighting on them and maybe some signage, so.
I guess, I just thought maybe we should.
Yeah, absolutely, yeah,
refer-
I don't think it hurts to, as long as we just say,
A one-liner.
complies with what we have, yeah,
a
yep, I think that's
one-liner.
perfect.
I'm not looking for a lot.
And that, so where do you think that should go? Should that just go in under general requirements? Because that's a general requirement for all of them.
Wherever we did the tree, it was in there, yeah, general.
Okay.
Isn't that general?
Yeah. We moved, for
well-
the tree stuff, we had moved the plan was to move part of it to general. and
Removal
part
of
it-
existing trees shall
Yeah.
comply, that was under general.
Yeah.
So I would just put it
Yeah.
there.
Okay.
Other than that, I think,
Yeah, I think if we can get away with paring down tier 3, we can do that. You and I can get together. And just figure out if there's any, at least take a stab at if there's anything that we need to leave in there.
well, yeah, I think by using the unified solar permit, we've covered.
Yeah.
I mean, compared to this telecommunications thing.
Yeah.
Which I think none of us have ever read when they've come before us. I would.
We lean
think.
on Brent to, yeah.
Because they all know the drill, but we don't.
Mm-hmm.
And that's what this does for us, essentially.
Right.
just covers all of this stuff.
Yeah.
And and like I said, I guess I just want to be sure that if we start modifying it, that it still does what we think it does and all that good stuff.
Yeah. Well, I think it'll be interesting too, once we think we're in a place where we're about ready to recommend it to the trustees, that, I know I've got a handful of, what if this person did this thing at their house, or this thing at their house, or this thing on their property, or this thing at this, business here in the village, how would that flow through this process? And then maybe try to poke some holes at it. I think everyone has some examples.
Yep.
What if I bid this and knock it down, and I want to turn it into a solar farm right in the middle of the village? Where
No,
would that-
it's a
I don't-
special permit, and the
I know.
planning board at the time will make that designation, and it is their right to do so. However, they can't be capricious about it, so there's the problem.
You have your general conditions,
Yeah.
you know what,
And he
huge.
said it wasn't very strong.
Yeah, no, just with a special use permit,
But you
the
can't-
implication is that it's an allowed use, so it's, I mean, you can deny it, but it's a,
With the general conditions, if they're not met.
yes. But you have to dot a lot of i's and cross a lot of t's, because by having it allowed by a special permit, it implies that it is allowed.
I think
If
generally,
you
we-
get it, I mean,
Wow,
you
that
can
doesn't
go round
work
and
for
round
me.
with that.
No, and honestly, the law has changed
That doesn't
on
work.
that probably in the last decade. When I started practicing this, I used to be able to advise board to be like, nah, you can deny a special use permit, I can go in front of a judge and, justify that. But really, the cases have swung a bit to say that if the legislative body says that it's a use that's allowed by special use permit, it's harder to, justify a denial.
Okay, so then, but that whole business about, well, so to your point earlier, that we got to be sure that our districts, we know where the this stuff can be then, because guys, here's the thing, there are places where this would just not be in character with the keeping of the neighborhood, there would be hell to pay if it got approved. And we do not need that.
that
you do not-
that might be every district?
Well, then we can't allow it anyway. So how do we do, well, we got to take a look at that. Really, when you said punch holes in it, we have to think, let's go through each of our districts and just say, do we feel comfortable?
And there's not that many of them, I mean, we can,
But I mean, we have had a couple of things in the past where we have had outcry and.
So if you had, let's take, you remember the land on, between Dart and Northwoods and Warren Road where someone wanted to come in and they wanted to put, I think it was the solar homes.
The solar homes, yes.
What if they wanted to clear cut that, and put in solar panels? Now, if it's allowed, and that's medium density residential, if it's allowed there with special permit, are you saying that the village can't deny that? Can't deny them from coming in to do that?
You would have to dot a lot of i's and cross a lot of t's to
Build the case
justify.
for it.
Yeah.
Well,
tree law.
okay, but, the tree law, they'd have to replace all the trees.
Can I ask about, wouldn't the tree law prevent something like that?
Not if they're willing, what if they're willing to?
Cut them all down.
To treatment, what if they're willing to do anything you ask them to do, but you don't want it there?
No, it's-
Well, then,
you
Go
enact
to
a
court,
moratorium.
see you in
No,
court,
you
Sonny.
enact a moratorium, and then change your law.
That just seems, I'm not arguing
Yeah.
by any means.
This is
Oh,
very-
no, but it is, it's a shift in the case law.
That's very
Probably
disturbing,
within the last decade.
So, when you say dot all your i's and cross all your t's, I mean, we don't have all that many things at our disposal besides the general conditions and.
Right.
But a special permit is partly subjective in that whatever culture you have going on or in society at the time, and the makeup of your board dictates decisions.
and other legislative bodies, to her point too,
Yes.
right, if case laws used to, if there was laws that they used to swing more towards, what the
That it-
court
that it
said
was-
versus,
Yeah.
yeah, so.
But case law could have been in God knows where, and has no relevance to our situation.
But if, just to play it out a little bit, if it's allowed anywhere with a special permit, then the legislative body is saying it's allowed in the middle of a residential development with a special permit. You know what I mean? So
Yeah.
That's what happens in these controversial ones.
Okay, so
is-
the tier matters,
You may have,
size does matter.
you may have to restrict tier 3 to possibly low-density residential.
That would, yeah, no, I was gonna say, we really need to look at that. I'm glad
Yeah, so
you-
it's worth the discussion.
Absolutely.
Yeah, and so, and I mean, that's the very first thing in tier 3 too, right, is they say, hey, this is available in these districts, so, you know, I think maybe
We
there's
need to
value in
really look
keeping
at that
it,
carefully.
but paring down all that stuff that, you know, isn't necessarily, hey, this is captured either in, you know, local laws that we already have on the books, or this unified solar permit, or, you know, another thing that we have, so.
Okay.
Well, Mike and I can, well, figure out some time
That's
to sit
interesting,
down.
that's good to know, Wendy, that's kind of.
Yeah, it's, like I said, it's a dicey, so I always, want to make sure that folks know that, special permits aren't as, discretionary.
Well, I think though, too, that we.
It's not like a variance.
Yeah, I think, as a board, though, even from before that, before I was on the board, and however long all of us have been here, I think that we've always been, really gone out of our way to, work with people who want to do something on this piece of property that they want to buy or that they own or whatever, and I think that that's, worked out well. I can't remember a situation where, we've never just said, no, we're not. I don't think that's anyone's intent.
Yep.
Now, there could be something with, with solar, or who knows what the other thing is, where that would be the case, but, I think that people have.
Well, usually if you meet them halfway, it's a negotiating process, obviously, but I do think that we better look at that closely, because it just helps, because the only other thing we have to go on is our comprehensive plan, just say it's, and that has helped us and saved us in a couple of situations. It's not that it prevented us from having to go to court, but it did result in a positive outcome for the village. So I think that we have to be sure that, we keep that in mind as well.
So are you saying that, as I understand, you're saying that, well, if something's allowed with a special permit, that even though a special permit can have conditions which are formulated by the planning board, that the planning board's discretion is somewhat cabined as to what they can do with the special conditions to prevent something, for example, like the clear cutting of trees or something like that, or is that?
Not so much the condition, to say no, just to say no to a denial on the project. You would have to really justify that, because the intent is that it's an allowable use through the special permit.
Oh, I see. So you're saying if they can come to us for a special permit, then by that virtue of that, it's kind of implied that it's going to be allowed, but there's going to be
I just have to do some
conditions.
things, but it'll be allowed,
Right,
and those are the
right.
conditions.
And certainly you have to do a lot more things for a special permit
Correct.
than a site plan, but if, let's say, for example, just to, now that I've got you into the legal rabbit hole, let's say.
That's all right, I like the rabbit hole.
Tim's like, no, let's go.
And let's say you did, the board was inclined to deny it. You would want to make sure that you could justify that denial. Let's say, for example, like the community character, that kind of general criteria. You would want your seeker determination to be able to justify why, even though it's allowed in the residential, in this site, it doesn't work because it doesn't fit those general conditions. But again, it would be, you would really have to bolster that denial, as opposed to just be like, no, we don't want it in the residential area.
When you say general conditions, are you talking about the conditions that would be part of the special
Yes.
permit or other general?
Your considerations, what you're supposed to consider before you'd make a decision on a special
The
permit.
10 general, 145, whatever, 59 or
'cause,
60.
sometimes we've done things like with Eric, put on some pretty stringent conditions.
But it's not a no.
Yes.
Right, we've still
So
given him the
basically-
permit.
You've given it the permit.
It could be, but I mean, they could be strict enough to either address the concerns that the village had, or it, from the developer's point of view, it just wouldn't be workable.
Well,
But it's still, yeah.
that's his,
But it's still,
that's
right,
their
yes.
choice. That's their choice. We didn't say no.
as we've demonstrated.
And I think that that's one of the things that it took me about 10 years to figure this out, is we have way more leverage than you think. We can, we don't have to say no, but we can ask for what we want. And we sometimes just didn't. We just thought it wasn't unfriendly or something. But you learn from your experience, is all I can say.
But it sounds like, though, we may not have as much power to maybe make it unpalatable for the developer, so they'll just turn around and walk away if they want to do something we don't want.
There's a difference between unpalatable and no. Like, if someone came in and said, you know, they wanted to put it in the middle of a residential area, and your board's just like, no, it just doesn't fit there, you know, you would have to jump through a lot of hoops before you could just, you know, unilaterally reject it by denying the special.
Requiring a lot of trees, like a lot of
Fencing, trees, all sorts of stuff.
vegetation, shielding by way of vegetation from seeing it, or a lot of trees within the,
Or you could start with a positive declaration and look at the environmental impact.
sorry, what was that?
You could do a positive declaration in order to study the environmental impacts associated with putting it into a residential area. So there's lots of, there's
We've done
lots
that with
of,
other things before.
yeah, there's lots of ways to maintain that power, it's just,
So basically, you're saying the only thing we can't do is say no. We can,
well, you
Come
always
right
can,
up,
but it would be
but-
more
but-
difficult to justify it
right,
in
no.
court.
I'm not hearing that, I'm just hearing that we need to be very, very careful, as you said, very careful and meticulous
Right, we
about
shouldn't
saying
just
no.
say no, we should have, through all the things, right, we've got, you know, we lean on the county for certain things, we ask for the public to come, we do a seeker, we do the general conditions, right, there should be something in those that would lead us to say no, we shouldn't just say, well, everything looks good, but we don't like it, so no.
which is one of the things when we do our minutes, sometimes that I've always tried to, sometimes it just says, oh, tell in your minutes how you got to that decision, because that's how we're supposed to let you know how we arrived at that. I mean, you kind of paraphrase it, whatever, but you don't just say, oh, they said no or yes. Just say, we agreed, because I think often it helps to think it through as we're talking about it, as well as put it in our minutes so that people understand why we made a decision the way we did sometimes. Because I don't think it's clear always.
Or though, right, for certain things, we can, you know, really just kind of take care of it ahead. If we say, you know, these are, you know, here's some districts, we don't want these things in,
Yeah.
then it's not. Right,
An
we
issue.
can't say, hey, you can apply, it's allowed in these districts, not that district.
They would have to go for variance.
It would be variance, yeah.
And then that's the whole, another matter, which has happened too.
So you think that's the way to go?
Why would,
It's just,
yeah, I mean, if there's some districts that you just know that you wouldn't want them in there.
Right, these bigger, or, you know,
Yeah,
And we might be talking about something that's just not practical, I just, you know, I don't know your municipality enough to give you
not very
suggestions,
big.
but if there are, if you think that there are areas, then it would make sense to say that you can get a special permit for the areas that you would want them in.
because I think at the moment it says it's allowed in all districts.
yeah, there's nothing.
allow them in those areas.
Right, yeah, so there's nothing for tier 1 or tier 2 that says yes or no for specific districts. Tier 3, it does say that, but we can go back and revisit that
Yeah,
too.
we
can say,
really ought to go through one district at a time and think it through.
Yeah.
Here's,
Uh-oh.
what if like we had brought this up before, what if the mall had come to us and they want to put solar panels on their roof? Now, to justify having solar panels, for them to justify having solar panels, you'd have to have a large array, which would more than likely classify as a tier 3. So if you're not allowing it in commercial areas, then they would not obviously be able to have it without going through a possible use variance. So in some cases, it is necessary to have a larger array in a commercial area in order to produce enough electricity. So do you completely leave it out of the commercial area? So you're gonna catch 22. I know what you're talking about. You don't want this huge area in the middle of high-density residential that's taking up, that's out of place. But in a case like the mall, and I'm kind of going off on a tangent here, in case of the mall, they're gonna have to have a large array in order to be worth it.
The mall's also, I don't want to say in its own district, but that, you know, it's a very limited thing where that would fit in.
It's commercial.
Right, yep.
Yeah, commercial.
But it's really, yeah, I mean, there's not a whole ton of commercial high traffic.
Okay, so if you include commercial high traffic, you include low-density residential, which is your really light yellow.
Mhm.
You'll have to just figure where else you can.
Well, and what about this whole, what is it, agrivoltaic kind of stuff? Which is farms, really, they're solar farms. They're, you know, I mean, there is the potential for that over, I suppose, in Sundance or whatever we're calling it. What are we calling that?
Yeah, I think, well, we'll sit down and take a look at, because I have a whole bunch of scenarios, hypotheticals. We can look and see, you know, hey, is this something, I think, you know, Mike and I have a good pulse on, you know, what would the board think about this? So I know what the board would think about that. So how could we not allow that, but hey,
Well,
they would probably be supportive of, you know, something like this here. So is there a way to make that to work with districting? And if not, there's, you know, there are other things in here too, as you talk about size of arrays and, you know, percentages that you can generate and things of that nature.
Well, we've talked about the fact that, gee, wouldn't it be nice that if on top of parking,
Yeah.
garage covered parking things, I mean, I think the mall is kind of a, it's kind of a problem in general, so there's a solar farm there.
I don't think it's their electricity costs that are,
Yeah, saw a really interesting article online just within the last week, you probably saw it, suggesting that a lot of these large surface lots like Walmart, they would build a cover, which would keep the cars cool,
Yes,
keep the snow off the cars, or rain, and keep it cool, and put solar panels on.
yes,
Yep.
exactly, these covered garage,
Walmart's-
basically
Walmart's proposing.
I
carports.
think it was Walmart,
Yeah.
this article mentioned Walmart, but same would apply to this small.
Yep. And you can make them really pretty too, you can plant trees around them and everything, it's real nice, actually. You can. don't know.
I think that would be a lovely special
And-
condition.
Yeah,
So how are we gonna, what's the next step here? How are we gonna head, what direction are we going in here? It sounds like you have an idea of what you wanna do.
so there's all the other changes that we can make that I think are independent from this, and then it sounds like we do need to keep tier 3 in there, because there are some considerations, we need to look, there's a bunch of stuff we can take out, we can do that together, or at least propose what to take out, and then we can also have a discussion about, you know, for these things, if it doesn't fall in those other 2 buckets, or even maybe those other 2 buckets too, you know, where would we want to allow some of these things, and we can come up with some proposal for the next meeting, hopefully. District by district.
So for the next meeting, then you clean this one up in accordance with the stuff we discussed in the past.
Yep.
So that I keep track.
And we'll come
of
up
my
with some
notes.
proposed changes for number 8, tier 3. Solar energy system.
And on a more,
And I'll make the font bigger.
no, I was just gonna say, a more pedestrian note, I see on the right, it looks like, it says 11 point, but this piece of paper is not 11 point.
It's Mike's printer. No, it's not really Mike's printer. I don't print anything.
Because
so-
of the, it's because of.
You can still make the font bigger in the center area, and
Yeah, you can.
it'll just take up more, which is fine, isn't it? Okay. And we can,
Because of this, too, but.
Yeah, no, I think it is, because actually, one of these that I printed out myself, I was able to enlarge the font.
yeah, I
And I think I even took out the notes on this.
yeah. Yeah.
That was back in the beginning.
The one thing that I would say is maybe everybody should, it's not that long, maybe everybody should kind of take a look at
Permit.
this unified solar
Yeah.
permit that we're gonna recommend the trustees adopt, and then also even probably not all the detail on the back end of the design standards, because probably not many of us know all of what that means, but the first couple of pages of it, at least, I think,
But
might
yeah,
have some good
And
information.
you'll
in there.
find out if we can legally modify this and have it be considered in New York State unified, because otherwise it's not. It's,
Right. Yeah, it's our,
Yes, no,
you
not
know,
just-
our
yeah.
version of it, yeah.
and that's what I would like to know.
I'll
Yeah.
find out more.
Okay.
Okay, anything else on that?
Oh, my gosh. Sort of coming.
Next item on the agenda is the trustee report.
Oh, my gosh. As it turns out, it was a long meeting because there was a presentation by, oh my God, I'm going to forget her, Charlie Wilson. Yes, Charlie Willison, At any rate, the Board of Trustees, the one thing they did is there was a change order, something was cheaper for the sewer project because of some pump thing, but the only thing that really was of interest, like this whole presentation on homelessness. It wasn't super specific to the county, but if you have a chance, it really would be worth watching, I think, just to kind of get a sense. So the main thing was talking about chronic homelessness versus temporary homelessness. And when you say chronic, they're usually people who really do not have a place to live. They're shelter home. And then there are those that are couch surfing, is what she called it. Basically, they're staying with friends or relatives or whatever. And the majority of them, there's like 3.5 million of them are around ages 18 to 25. Because they don't have a place to live per se, but they've got they have shelter. So it's really hard to kind of totally keep track, but mostly what, of course, people are concerned about are the chronic homeless. They tend to be single adults. They have many, often medical and mental issues. They need a lot of support in that regard, and they are very expensive for a municipality because they access police services, hospital services, all that sort of thing. The temporary homeless are generally, it's a short-term financial situation. They usually have a job. That's just they can't, get affordable housing that they have a place where they can stay. And a lot of them are families with kids. It's a problem. So at any rate, it became worse during the pandemic because a lot of shelters closed. And she said that the most important differences are the fact that the chronic people usually have high medical and psychological needs. And so there's a big difference there. The longer you're in homelessness, the more likely it is to become chronic. They have temporary homeless people have many wider options. And so overall, as long as they don't stay homeless for extended periods of time, they're going to move along. The Veterans Administration is doing better with some of the homeless programs than many. But it's just, so the buzz thing that she brought up that was important is the cost effectiveness of what they call housing first. So the first thing you need to do to address homelessness is to get them into some sort of shelter. And that looks different in many ways, depending on whether you're going to set up, whether they have to be off drugs, whether it's okay for to just take them in regardless, and that sort of thing. I think the thing, and then she talked about something I wasn't quite clear about continuing of care. It's a federally organized but non-governmental program where this lead agency receives federal money, and it coordinates with all the other agencies. And it turns out that Tompkins County is its own continuing of care organization. Now, actually, Peter Grossman was at this meeting, and he seemed to know a lot about this.
Well, good, and he's actually going to be covering your planning board meeting.
Next
for the
time?
first one in
Oh, good,
May,
maybe he
so-
can fill us in then a little bit, because he did speak up on it, and I thought, oh, I think he knows something, that I don't, because maybe he can help us with it. So what's also interesting from our perspective, I think, is, so just talking about the fact that the county pretty much, as I was talking to someone, Jim, I don't know if you were here, Carolyn asked, some of the panhandlers around whether, are they legit? And she said, generally, the county knows. If they're panhandling, they're chronic usually. Although there seem to be some things that you've noticed that perhaps you didn't feel that way. But the real thing that I took away from it was, first of all, there is this Cayuga Park. So what's happening, apparently, this is another kind of nationwide thing, just like medical centers are taking over malls and setting up. They are starting to fund, even though they don't apparently have any controls, and maybe Peter can advise us on this. They're hospital-initiated programs, and they put in funds. And we have one basically starting here that's being called Cayuga Park. So kind of watch for that.
Really?
And it's going to be a sort of, kind of a, I think it's going to be this housing first kind of thing. Take people in and get them shelter.
Is this part of the hospital?
Well, they're providing funds. The hospitals nationwide, or a lot of them are providing funds, because what's happening is the homeless people are often brought with, they have diabetes, they have psychiatric problems, they end up in the hospital, in the ER, in hospital rooms, and they're taking away resources from hospitals in a way that's become unmanageable. And so hospitals just saying, look, we'll give you some money to kind of
If you could stave off some of those issues
Yes.
before it really becomes an issue.
yes.
You
So-
might not need that level of care that you
I
would get at
didn't
a
know
hospital.
that that was going on. Of course, there's some saying, well, oh, great, then they get to treat these people, and they're gonna make more money off of it, but I'm not sure that's the intent. I have no idea. And there, there's some nationwide success stories about ways to approach this, but mostly it's this housing first thing. You get them into housing, and once they have a place, a lot of them start seeking treatment that they wouldn't normally do. And so the real problem is none of us wants this, we don't want people hanging out in our next door in cardboard houses and things, and I feel very sad that these people have to, they don't want to be this way, most of them. So I think, everybody kind of agrees that we have to discuss that. One of the things that I think in our community, people have been concerned about this situation over at Econo Lodge, I was.
Yeah.
One of the things that they did bring up that I think is important that we all be aware of, and I think we need to stay on top of, is that she said, you want to have these housing first, but you don't want them all concentrated in one place. So you don't want like every hotel in town to be a housing first situation, but you might allow one. Because, you want people to have a place to stay, but location matters too, they gotta be on transportation lines and all that good stuff. But, it's something that what really is important is that there's got to be intergovernmental collaboration, and we've just got to be sure that we and our trustees, we are communicating with everybody at the county level to be sure that, we're not the only people taking in people. We have to share all of this because we all share the problem. It's just, one of the things she said too is, I personally don't know anyone who is homeless. I don't know, and if you do. But she said, it's really important that when you start trying to address some of these needs, that you have a coordinated approach, try to access people who have been homeless, whether they are now out of homelessness, but it's really important that you find out what they really need, not just, what do they really need? So it was worthwhile listening to, I think.
And Ronnie sent out the link to that to everybody, so.
Well, it's on the YouTube thing.
Yeah, but I think he put the link right in the email.
Oh, did he?
I think so,
Okay.
yeah.
I think I remember seeing that.
And it was, she presented for about 20 minutes or so, were you on? And then there was there was a lot of good questions and skepticism and, stuff too. So I think it's important that we all kind of stay on top of this, because certainly we've experienced it and people are concerned about this. As I also was telling everybody before, that usually the chronic homeless people, when they are arrested, it's not for violent crimes. It's usually for public bathroom going. Basically, residents are complaining because, they're setting up next door or whatever, or they actually see them injecting, drugs visibly. So, but it's not like, but apparently they are not really violent criminals kind of situation, which is important to keep in mind, I think, because it is hard. I think we all feel uneasy with the situation. And it's hard, but At any rate, the other thing is that it was Pat O'Rourke's final meeting. And you still have time to vote, anyone who hasn't voted.
I did before I came in.
I figured didn't want to be late, so I'll vote after the meeting.
That's mine.
And then, yeah, that's it for the trustees.
Okay, last item is other business.
I was gonna say, I was kind of curious, because I listened to the whole thing, and I was a hair disappointed, because it didn't sound like there was a step one, and that was housing, and after that, it seemed like there was no plan after that. Okay, that's, if you're hungry, give them some food, yeah, okay, if you're gonna house them, but there's gotta be some kind of plan after.
I agree, and that's why I think it's important that we talk to our mayor, but we need to really get in touch with Tompkins County if there's this continuing of care organization. I don't know what that means quite, but I think we should find out, because I think it's just important, and it's just something, we've got to solve this, and if nobody else is going to take the lead, then we're going to have to kind of start working on it, because many people are concerned about this.
Yeah, and I think over this summer, as soon as the weather finally warms up
Yeah.
again, I think probably by midsummer, we're going to be seeing a lot more of what we've started to see already.
Yeah,
And, you know, the Econo Lodge, I mean, anytime you go over to the Cuba Mall, the cops are over there all the time. But I've noticed on the warmer days, the families are all outside, and on the back side of the hotel that faces Route 13, they're out there with their lawn chairs like it's their backyard. Their kids are out there playing ball. I mean, it's kind of,
but that's not, is that a problem, though?
no, it's not, but it's like, don't you kind of feel sorry for these people that have like all these kids and they're living in a,
I know, but at least they're outdoors and their kids are playing. I mean,
Yeah.
but at least they have a place to stay. See,
yeah, that's true, but they're being housed with like, I mean, there are people in that hotel over there that are just doing drugs all the time. I mean, it's like,
well, I think anybody, if you go over there, I've seen, I think, trade-offs there. It's like,
yeah,
but the fact of the matter is, if you can get people into somewhere else.
yeah. There aren't that many options for that,
No, well, that is the whole point.
right?
There are not options. And why is that?
I think there's some new options that are gonna be,
Well, this Cayuga Park is going to be one of them, I just don't know.
so Cuba Park, is that already built, or is that,
No, I have no idea, don't ask me, Lorraine, I didn't understand quite.
well, it's because I've heard the name of it, and I don't know.
Park?
It's not the brand new one across from Aldi, is it? Downtown,
Oh, no, I don't,
that's another low.
no, I don't think so, no.
There's that gray thing off to the left.
Yeah, is that Cuba?
There's a lot,
To the right if you
that's,
go.
no, that's something else. I forget.
Well, I guess more to come on that, but.
Yeah.
Oh, and the other thing is, though, is I was over at the Cayuga Mall, and I popped into the VA. And really, they did a nice job. It was on Friday, and so they had no patients. I guess they just do administrative work, and I said, well, how's it going, on planning board and blah, blah, blah. And so they said, well, there've been a couple of little snags, apparently they don't have any, well, they don't have any windows, and I guess during COVID, it was that kind of a bad thing. It's just the front.
Yeah.
And I guess they had phone issues, but generally, people are pretty happy, and there's, one of the things we have going for us in our village is we have parking.
Yeah.
Yeah,
And I said, are patients generally happy with it? She said, well, it depends, but she said they are happy with parking. I said, well, you can go shopping for food after you get out of work, or they can, so there's a lot of pluses, so I think it's gonna take time, but they really did a nice job, it looks like to me.
but one of them gets run over from those kids that are going 80 miles an hour through there to get to Planet Fitness. I've witnessed it. They fly through that parking lot like crazy.
Well, did I ask that possibly we would put a barrier in there at one point to stop that? I was told no.
Can't put it, Mike, can we put a something up there?
I suggested we change the parking lot design,
We can, right, yeah.
because, yeah, it's dangerous.
No, they fly through there. I've seen them fly through there like crazy, yeah.
It's a dangerous parking lot, it frankly is.
Yeah.
Okay. Other business. Lorraine?
Nothing.
Pat? Lisa?
I just want to ask, is it NYSEG that's running around clearing the edges of all the roads and everything? Like on Oakcrest, they just, or is that just a clearing in general? Because I thought they did the trees already, but what's all the shrubbery stuff?
I'll double check, but I think it's actually the town is going down through and doing it for
And
us.
why are they doing that?
Keep the brush back from the for visibility for, I mean,
Okay.
it's pretty common.
Yeah, it's just different than
Oh,
usual.
I noticed it on Warren Road too, like the stretch between our Bomax and up, it looks like, I'm like, oh, did they sell that property? No, I was like, it looks like they put, Pat, have you noticed that? It looks like they've been like clearing out and they've got flags up and, anyway,
They cleared out where the natural gas line runs between Burdick Hill and Autumn Ridge.
oh,
They cleared out that entire channel down through there.
Oh, my gosh,
Because I
really?
woke up one morning and I thought
All your
somebody was,
trees
I don't
are
know,
missing?
cutting my trees down. I'm like, thanks, but no, but yeah, no, so, because I went out there and I was driving up the hill to go to work and I stopped and I backed up in my truck and I'm like, you can't usually see that.
Well, there's all this-
I think it's for
like they
maintenance, though.
Shredded this stuff, and it's the shrubs, it's not the trees, so that, because the NYSEG already trimmed a lot of the trees, I think.
And I did see some guys that were from the town.
They were the town guys.
I mean,
I just
I'll
didn't,
find out.
I didn't, and I thought, well, are they planning to do something with a culvert or whatever? It wasn't everywhere, it was just, I was just wondering, it doesn't matter. But, yeah, for visibility, it's sort of good so that the deer, you see them sooner before they jump out in
Yeah.
front of your car.
Anything else, Lisa?
Nope.
A couple things. I said last time that this gentleman contacted me about short-term rentals.
Oh, yeah.
I got back to him, had him give me, some bullet points on what he'd be covering. I'll send that over to you so you can take a look at it, and if you possibly want him to come in for, a presentation or something, you can go ahead and do that. The beers, I threaten this all the time, they may be here next meeting. But you will have, next meeting, you will have dark drive back, 9 dark drive back for a minor subdivision. Oh, I'm sorry, you guys classified as a minor subdivision. It's one lot getting separated into 2 lots.
That's the one on the corner, right there.
And the only other thing I have is hours for training needed.
Uh-oh.
Mike and Jim both need 4
For this year.
this year.
Yeah.
And this year is December 31st or next March?
June 1st.
What's that?
June 1st is the turn of the,
June?
No, May 1st.
May 1st, yeah, May 1st.
I did all my hours last year.
She says, Jody told me, get your 4 hours in.
I'll go to another look.
Did you tell her, did you
Yeah, I forwarded
report?
everything, I'm pretty sure I forwarded everything to her, if not, I'll find out. Yeah, I forwarded everything to her.
I'm just a messenger.
Okay.
Shoot him.
And that's really all I have.
I need 4.
the short-term rental
It's
presentation,
a privilege, it's a privilege.
wasn't there an email like a while back? It's the same person that's working with was it Cuba Heights?
It's possible. I didn't show Brent who it was yet, so it's very possible.
What, the short-term rental thing?
Yeah.
I think, do you think it's,
They're out of Watkins.
I mean, can it hurt?
No, I mean, he's not gonna charge us for it. If he's-
I was gonna say, is it gonna?
Free, yeah.
I'm sure that if you're coming in to give a free presentation for something, that
Yeah, well,
you're selling something, so.
but we don't have to buy. We don't have a budget. We can't
I
come,
mean, what would they be pitching? I'm just curious.
data collection.
They have all this data on where they'll monitor all of
Got this one.
short-term rental companies or whatnot, so that they compile a whole list of, the residents in the area that are doing short-term rentals, that type of stuff.
Database, right?
Didn't a planning student just do that for the city of Ithaca? One of our students at Cornell.
I don't know. I just had another thought, I just came across a piece of paper that I should have. This is solar code again, I'm sorry. This was something I came across, what was this, in one of the, it was referenced in this and I followed went down a rabbit hole. Array siding, it talked about when a house does not have a clear south-facing roof, contractor can install in garages, outbuildings, or in the ground. Well, we know that, but we don't care if we don't have to specify garages or outbuildings, do we? Do you think we should?
What do you mean you don't have to specify them?
In our code, the solar code, it says if the house doesn't have a clear south-facing roof, you can install in garages, outbuildings, or in the ground.
We've allowed garage, any type of
And yeah, I was gonna say,
habitable and.
I just came across that, I thought, why do they say that? Okay, yeah, well, in the ground, I know, or,
Yeah, I just inspected one that had it on the garage.
yeah, I always consider, yeah, of course, if some are freestanding garages, I guess, is that considered an accessory building? Freestanding garage?
Depends on the size.
Of course it does.
I sent all 4 hours of my training.
What?
1 hour on this certificate, 3 hours on the other certificate. I will talk to Jody now. Anything?
I will be on a plane.
Yes.
So I won't be here for the first May meeting, so Peter will be covering that, likely via Zoom. But it'll actually be good, you can probably get some insights from him on the solar law. So it'll be kind of nice with his relationship with the trustees, so, I think that'll be helpful.
Okay. I am the liaison for the planning board at the trustee meetings for May, so, yeah, it's on my calendar.
You are,
Yeah. And
I
then
was gonna say.
Lorraine
do
has.
We have the latest,
I'll forward it back out to you.
actually, it was.
And then on the training, our firm does the boot camp
Yes.
series.
There's one Thursday night, right?
Yes.
Yeah, I'm
on
signed up.
Seeker, which is.
Oh, yeah, I signed up for that.
Favorite area of law, so.
Really?
I'm a Seeker geek.
Oh, good.
Yes, I'm very excited about that.
Yeah,
Oh, good.
yeah, I've done a couple of the boot camps, they're pretty good, yeah.
Can they be, are they archived so you could,
They are, so the way the law is actually set up for the educational training, it's really up to the trustees to decide whether or not the boot camp series, or, it really is up to the trustees to decide. So we always say at the first boot camp, make sure your trustees will take our boot camp series as far as the educational credit, so that's somewhat the qualifier. If you participate and watch it live, we send a certificate documenting that you attended it. If you do it by video, what we suggest for the trustees is that you've just given, an attestation that I watched the boot camp, and then as long as your trustees are fine with that, there's no reason why you would have to do it live, but we can't generate that certificate that you watched it, whereas we can if you do it live.
so, because you've had a couple of boot camp sessions before the one, because this Thursday night, I might still be on the road.
Yep,
Yeah.
and they tell me they're available through the website, that you're able to watch them through the website, it's just you won't get that certificate.
So I could spend Friday night watching
Absolutely,
a
you
couple.
can catch yourself up and have no problem at all. But you would have to, just have something here that, whatever your procedure is, that your trustees accept you watching those,
To get your hour.
to get your hour in,
And
which probably is a question that we'll go back to.
anybody know what that is, if anything?
I'll find out from Jody tomorrow and I'll.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, we.
Not promising, but that sounds like a good solution to do, because, May 1st is kind of quick.
Cross the Ts, but.
I don't know if I'd be all that.
Well, I like to
I
try.
don't know, I just passed that message.
So are you the presenter for the team?
Yeah, yes, yeah, I do most of them. Carrie did the solar one, which was good, so I don't know, I didn't actually get to watch that one.
I haven't seen any of them, that's why I asked all.
Yeah, but the solar one would be good,
Yeah.
if you want to watch that one, because it's Lance from MRB, that's a company that represents a lot of municipalities in dealing with, kind of going through the process for the large arrays. And then Carrie has, great knowledge on kind of the practical business side.
Okay. With that, I will entertain a motion to adjourn at 8:06 PM.
I will move to adjourn at 8:06 PM.
Motion by Jim. Second by Pat, all in favor?
Aye,
We all hate to.
Great, thank you, everybody. I gotta go vote.
Gotta go vote.
yeah.